Hello, welcome to the Spirit of Apollo. I'm your host, Mark Lesmeister. Tonight I'd like to talk a little bit about the people that worked on the Apollo program, as well as introduce you to a couple of people who have helped me in my rocket building. Of course, we're all familiar with the astronauts of the Apollo program, but there were literally thousands of people behind the scenes that made what the astronauts did possible. At one time, over 400,000 people were working on the Apollo program. Now, despite what my students might think, I was not old enough to have been one of them. This picture was taken while I was working at NASA with the Texas High School Aerospace Scholars. In this program, I had the opportunity to meet several people that did work with NASA. One of the people I got to meet was Norm Chaffee. Mr. Chaffee was a chemical engineer during the Apollo program and also worked on the shuttle program. Aside from the astronauts, probably the most well-known person from the Apollo missions was Gene Kranz. Mr. Kranz worked on the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo missions, as well as the shuttle program. He was the flight director during the actual landing of the lunar module on the moon during Apollo 11. I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Kranz during the High School Aerospace Scholars program. He's also actively involved in recreating the original Mission Control as a National Historic Site. Another Apollo engineer I met through the High School Aerospace Scholars was Mr. Jerry Woodfill. Mr. Woodfill has worked at NASA a long time. He was inspired to apply for NASA after attending President Kennedy's speech at Rice University, where he was a student. Mr. Woodfill was the Apollo spacecraft warning systems engineer and now gives motivational speeches to various groups. One of the things that Mr. Woodfill often talks about is the importance of failure. Now, this might come as a surprise to some people to hear a NASA engineer talking about why failure is important, but it is often from our failures that our successes arise. This idea of learning from failure is made in the book Failure is Not an Option by Gene Kranz. Now, you might think a book with a title like that would view failure as a negative thing. But the failure in the title refers to not accepting the possibility of failing when mission success or people's lives are on the line. But it doesn't mean you never fail. In fact, Mr. Kranz talks about learning lessons from a tragic failure such as the Apollo 1 fire, in which astronauts Grissom, White, and Chaffee were killed while testing the command module on the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center. A few days after the fire, Mr. Kranz gathered his team together and said the following: "Spaceflight will never tolerate carelessness, incapacity, and neglect. Somewhere, somehow, we screwed up. We were too gung-ho about the schedule, and we locked out all the problems we saw each day in our work. Not one of us stood up and said, 'Damn it, stop.' From this day forward, flight control will be known by two words: tough and competent. Tough means we are forever accountable for what we do or what we fail to do. Competent means we will never take anything for granted." And then he told them to go back to their offices and write the words tough and competent on their blackboards. And he closed with this: "Each day, when you enter the room, these words will remind you of the price paid by Grissom, White, and Chaffee. These words are the price of admission to the ranks of Mission Control." I think we can all take a lesson from Mr. Kranz's words, whether doing something as dramatic as landing a rocket on the moon, or something as mundane as teaching school or building a rocket. And we should always take a moment to acknowledge the people that help us. So I couldn't build the rocket by myself. I need the assistance of my talented assistant. This is my wife, Gloria. Say hi, Gloria.
Hello, Gloria.
Not only did Gloria buy the rocket for me originally, but when I told her what I had in mind, she's been very supportive. Another person who's helped in this project is my son, James.
Salute.
He was my inspiration for building Legos, and he provided me, although he didn't know it, with a couple of the Legos that I use for building my small models that we used last time. Okay, so let's get started on bag 9, and I'll let you know how it goes. So just like in the stage 1 of the rocket, we made 4 of these little panels like that, and we're going to put them on the base here. And here is stage 2 nearing completion. So, till next time, Godspeed.